Teaming up to block the transaction, Cleveland-Cliffs made a failed $7 billion bid for U.S. Steel back in August of 2023. Reuters reported that CEO Lourenco Goncalves participated in at least 9 calls assuring investors that President Biden would scuttle the Nippon Steel merger months before he did so. Joining me now is the man himself, Cleveland-Cliffs CEO Lourenco Goncalves. In this exclusive, Cleveland-Cliffs is a leading North America-based steel producer with focus on value-added sheet products, particularly for the automotive industry. Lourenco, thanks very much for being here this morning.
My pleasure to be with you, Maria.
So we understand that Nippon and U.S. Steel are suing the U.S. government, but there's a separate suit filed in Pittsburgh federal court where the companies are accusing you and the United Steelworkers president, Dave McCall, of racketeering and anti-competitive activities to keep Nippon Steel from completing this sale. What is your response?
My response will be giving in court. And I have never had so much time to prepare for a lawsuit that I knew that was coming. So we are armed through the teeth. And the Japanese will learn about, they just learned about CFIUS. Now they will learn about the judicial process in the United States. It is a two-way street. And we are going to discuss this in court. But if you allow me, I would love to comment on the CFIUS review.
Yes,
the deal received a pretty detailed CFIUS review. I think no other deal has been more scrutinized than this deal. They actually went through 3 90-day periods of analysis by CFIUS. And it's funny that they're not reaching consensus has been reported as a negative. The fact is that it's a multi-departmental committee, and some were in favor of the deal, and some were not. And the law says in situations like that, the deal goes to the President of the United States, and the President of the United States makes the decision. That's exactly what happened. And now they have 30 days to pack and go.
But how did you know that was going to happen? Because in this lawsuit against you and the union, Nippon is saying that because you made that failed $7 billion bid for U.S. Steel back in August of 2023, you didn't want a deal to happen. And you said on conference calls with analysts, quote, "I can't force U.S. Steel to sell to me, but I can work my magic to make a deal that I don't agree with not to close." You told investors on a March 13th call. Now they're using those words against you, Lourenco.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair game. And we are going to have to discuss that in court, what was in the background, what happened. And by the way, let's fix this record once and for all. $7 billion was my initial bid. And the auction lasts like 6 months. And through the auction, I went up to $54 per share. And then my number was magically beaten by $1 in the last hours of the Saturday. So we will discuss all that. But that's a different story. The point is,
Lourenco,
this deal was legally blocked.
So bottom line here, are you prepared to move your bid up? Are you prepared, if the Nippon deal doesn't go through, are you prepared to make another bid at a much higher price?
No, I'm not. I'm not. Situation has changed. The backdrop of the market changed. We have a new president coming to town, and tariffs are coming. And what they're trying to do now is tariff jumping. And Trump said right away that the deal would be blocked immediately. Biden took more than 1 year to do what he had to do. And now the Japanese seem to be surprised with the outcome. Let's see. Trump would block. He said that right away in January. Biden, a few months later, said pretty much the same thing. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, together with Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Josh Hawley, sent a letter to ask for CFIUS 1 day after the Nippon deal was announced. And then in May, the same 3 senators, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Josh Hawley, asked President Biden, hey, act, stop talking, take action. And that was in May, through January, for Biden to act. So if Trump were in office, nothing would have happened. The deal would have been blocked right away.
Well, look, I spoke with President Trump about this.
Weakness, they tried to explore.
I spoke with President Trump about this last February on Sunday Morning Futures. Here's what he said. Watch.
I saved the steel companies, and now Japan is buying U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel. You know what a name that is? That's the most important name. 50 years ago, there was no company like U.S. Steel. Now that Japan is buying it, I don't think I'd let that deal go through, by the way.
So you don't think a deal with Nippon will happen at all, even with an additional CFIUS review, once Trump is in?
Look, at this very moment, the deal has been legally blocked. And I don't see how this deal can be resuscitated. Keep in mind, there's Tony Blinken is in Japan right now, eating sushi in Japan. Very soon, in his position, we're going to have Marco Rubio. That's bad news for the Japanese. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance has been a strong proponent of blocking this deal. So what are they going to get by bringing it back to Donald Trump? That has been absolutely clear that tariffs are coming to protect American business, America first. Japan has a problem. It's their problem, not our problem. They have overcapacity. They have a shrinking population. Bad for Japan.
But why would a deal with your company, Cleveland-Cliffs, be any better? I mean, if you're getting together with U.S. Steel, don't you control the dissemination and the price of steel for U.S. automakers? Is that anti-competitive?
Of course not. Of course not. There are several other companies. Nucor is bigger than Cliffs. Steel Dynamics is almost the same size as Cleveland-Cliffs. A lot of imported steel still comes to this country. Aluminum we compete against. But it doesn't mean that I need to buy U.S. steel. The point is, we clearly have a situation that Nippon Steel cannot and will not buy U.S. steel. That's U.S. Steel. It's an American corporation, should continue to be American. And if Cleveland-Cliffs will be able to buy or not, that's a different story. But the story is, legally, by CFIUS, the deal has been blocked. And suing the President of the United States is a bad idea. Suing Lourenco Goncalves sounds like a good idea. We're going to prove in court that's a horrible idea.
Well, they're also suing you. Give us the backdrop of the steel industry right now, because what is going to happen here? Are tariffs the answer? This is what President Trump wants to cut. Let's say you don't get U.S. Steel and you go on continuing as an independent and U.S. Steel is an independent. What do you want to see from U.S. policy on a Nippon Steel, on foreign steel makers?
They need to reduce overcapacity. There's no reason to overproduce. Japan produced 80 million tons of steel in a country that consumes less than 50. So Japan invented overcapacity. China put overcapacity in asteroids. So China replicates what Japan has been doing since the 80s. So Japan is at the origin of all of our problems in this country as far as steel. So I'm glad that we're being able to expose Japan as a perpetrator of overcapacity in the world, someone that's not welcome in our marketplace. We can compete against anyone as long as the playing field is level.
Lourenco, you've been a student of this business for a long time. Knowing what you know today, are steel prices going lower or higher?
Higher.
Lourenco, we'll be watching
President Trump
this.
is coming.
Okay, we'll be watching this fight and certainly the growth of your company. Lourenco, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thanks, Maria. All the best.
Okay, Lourenco Goncalves.